Hi friends, Allison here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am creating another layout using my Paper Issues Scrapbooking Kit, and I'm also using Photoplay's Tulla Norbert. I pulled out some paper, pattern paper from the Tulla Norbert collection. I absolutely loved the floral pattern in this paper. I had toyed with the idea of using just plain white cardstock and cutting an additional cut file that was wood grain to go in the background. But when I thought of this pattern paper, I knew that was it. So the main cut file I'm playing with today is the wreath. It's like a 3/4 wreath. There are leaves that go in the bottom portion where it's open. I do have those cut, but I decided I wanted to use the Jen Hadfield die cuts ephemera that I got in September's Paper Issues Scrapbooking Kit, and I was hoping that they would be big enough to fill in the gap at the bottom, and happily enough they are. But you'll see that in just a little bit. So I glued the wreath to the layout base just using my Tombow Mono liquid glue. I also trimmed down the floral pattern paper in the background just 1/4 inch on two sides so that I could mat it to some close to my heart almond cardstock so that it would have a little bit of a frame around it. So I have the flowers pulled out and I played around with them for a little bit and found flowers that I like to fill the bottom hole. And I also figured that I would use some other pattern paper. I can't remember what collection it comes from now at the moment. If it comes from my Paper Issues kit or if it was, I'm pretty sure it's not Tulla Norbert. So it's probably some Jen Hadfield paper from the Paper Issues kit that I got. I cut out a little house. It's actually a little cafe, a little business. I thought that would really work well for the theme that I'm working with today, which, by the way, is going out for lunch. You can tell by the picture I'm standing outside of a restaurant. One of my friends and I decided to go for lunch after we got to Provo and got ourselves settled in our room. And this was the place that we found. It's called Sensuous Sandwich. And it was a neat little place. We went and had, it's like a sub place. I don't know if they are common in the States and you can find them all over the place, or if it's just strictly in Provo, but we enjoyed it. And we walked around town a little bit to take in the sights and see what town looked like, and it was gorgeous. I would love to go back one day, and I would love to tour and not go there for business. Okay, so back to the layout. I pulled out some more of the flowers, and I'm just playing around with adding a little embellishment cluster near the title. In my original design, which I have saved to Cricut Design Space, I can include the link to that down in the bottom of the video if you would like to replicate this layout yourself. I have tons of layouts saved to the Cricut community. You can follow me there if you so choose, or create any one of the layouts that I've shared. Pretty much everything I create is saved to Cricut community for everybody to use, only for personal use though. So I pulled out a few other flowers and some leaves from the embellishment pack, and I'm just building clusters in a few different places around the wreath. So the top right corner of the picture, the top left of the wreath, and then where I put the little cafe to the left side of the title. And then of course there's flowers at the bottom of the layout to fill in that gap. And as I was going, I decided that I needed to add a little bit more texture. So I pulled out some yellow sewing thread and I'm adding that to a couple of the clusters around the page. I decided to add sewing thread to two different sides of each of the embellishment clusters just to make it look like they're bigger. And I plopped them down before I put the ephemera on top of it. That's sort of the idea that I was running with. I wanted to trick the eye into believing there was more sewing thread there than there actually is. So that's a little tip to keep in mind if you ever want to use sewing thread in your layouts. I also pulled out some Pinkfresh Studio My Favorite Story chipboard flair and found that they actually worked really well with the color scheme as well in my layout. So I pulled out a little flair that said Explore, which is what Gloria and I were doing. And even though the light pink flowers don't really fit the color scheme, they're a little bit too light for this layout, I actually think they do work in the end anyways. So I added a couple light pink flowers to 2 of the embellishment clusters. The one in the top right hand of the photo, I added the pink flower because I put a foam square underneath one of the petals because it wasn't sticking very well and it was poking out. So to hide that, I just added another flower. And I think it works. Another thing I wanted to note too about this layout is I fussy cut that second house and had it sitting next to the little cafe that I had previously fussy cut. I hummed and hawed for a long time as I was getting the rest of the layout completed, whether or not I actually wanted it there. In the end, I take it out. But now that I am working on the voiceover for this layout and have watched it over again myself before I did the voiceover, I actually want it in there. So you're not actually going to see it in the close-ups, which there will be some at the end of the video. But just know that I do add that other building there just to help fill it in a little bit more. I felt like it was a little bit lacking over on that edge of the layout. So after I'm done this voiceover, I will be going back to my haven and sticking it down to the layout. With that, this layout is pretty well done. I do add the journaling around the inside circle of the wreath. I tried going in with a brown journaling pen, but I think it's dying. So I put it back and pulled out a black pen and wrote over the few words that I had written and then completed the journaling in black pen. And to complete the layout, I added some Jen Hadfield puffy enamel dots, which were actually part of an older Paper Issues scrapbooking kit. I can't remember what month it was from, but I'm still working on finishing up the pack and they worked perfectly here too. Just a couple other phrase stickers, and with that, my friends, this layout is done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and a like, and I hope to see you again. If you did drop by my video, please make sure you say hello and let me know that you were here. See you again very soon, my friends. Bye.